If you ask any CIA member or informed or well-traveled prepper, which of the countries are the most dangerous in the world, these top 6 and more are countries that they'll mention that you should never visit. Especially if you're traveling with a big family, when you have little kids running around, keeping them safe is a top priority, and some of these places just make that impossible. So the first country I'm going to mention is Russia. And this is a huge one to avoid because it is far too easy for someone to get snatched there and thrown into a prison on fake charges. Unless the government works out a political swap, getting home is a real uphill battle. Ukraine is also a bad idea for a vacation right now because of the war, obviously. Unless someone is specifically heading over there to join the fight and they know what they're doing. China is another place where you have to be extremely careful, specifically, especially with your technology, your electronic devices. It's a good idea to get your dummy electronics, like cheap brand electronics and things that you don't plan to use long term, just for the trip. You should never bring your personal devices because people will likely copy all of your data. There are stories of hotel rooms being tossed while guests are out, and even people walking around with sniffers in their backpacks that can suck the info right out of your phone as they pass you. Even at a business lunch, there could be a janitor who will mess with your gear while you're away from the table, and that person is not a real janitor. And even if things have calmed down a bit with Cuba or even Colombia, especially over the past couple decades, they are still dangerous places with a lot of violence. Cuba is still a communist country that many experts prefer to steer clear of. Now, Mexico is another major no-go for many travelers. Regardless of how much money is offered, even if someone is wealthy enough to have a team of bodyguards and a bulletproof limo, that is not exactly a relaxing way to live. There are plenty of stories of people who only realized how dangerous the gangs and cartels were after something terrible happened to them. It's also a good idea to check the State Department website for updates on civil wars in parts of Africa. And while this site is helpful, it might always have every single detail about what's happening on the ground. Other parts of Europe like France, Italy, or Greece are reasonably safe and very nice places to travel to, but you still have to be smart about it. There is a story about a guy who traveled to Greece, and he spoke the language fluently and perfectly, but he had an American accent. So he got into a cab, and these are one of these cabs that they drive up to you and they're somehow able to skip the lineup of the common cab line that's there waiting after the airport. And this guy is offered, a cheap ride. He can skip the lines for some reason. He goes in, and the driver on the radio tells someone on the other end that he found an American with money, and he'll be at a certain spot in 5 minutes. So immediately, this passenger who spoke Greek, he reached around, he started choking the driver, and he threatened him in Greek to get him to stop the car so he could get away safely. So here's some general travel safety tips to keep in mind. Always let people know where you're going and share your itinerary. Stick to legitimate booking sites and never take a deal from someone on a street corner. Avoid those ghost cabs. Those are those random cars that are trying to pick people up at a deal and skipping the line. And don't cheapskate with hotels. Ask the concierge for the best tour groups and safe spots to eat. And also, if you can, try to stay between the third and sixth floors of a hotel. Because in worst case scenarios, when there are terrorist attacks that happen, the first floor is where intruders or bombs hit. And fire truck ladders usually can't reach past the sixth floor. You, of course, want to stay away from the shady places. So, one thing that, if you pay attention, you'll notice is that strip clubs, these are actually pretty dangerous places, because if you walk by them enough, there are always corners and intersections by these strip clubs that are taped off because a stabbing happened or shots were fired. They just attract a lot of questionable and shady people. And, this is why CIA spies actually like to hang out in these spots and find specifically, these shady personalities to recruit. And that's exactly why you want to stay away. I don't really understand what's the benefit of hiring people, recruiting people for the CIA when, we're looking at this kind of environment. But that's what they do. So remember the old rule that nothing good happens after midnight.